Hello everyone, welcome back to Rich's Garage. Hey look, the plane's finished. Well, not really. I kind of got carried away I guess, and haven't shown you anything in a while, so I'm going to break this down and show you what I've done so far. The last time you saw this was kind of in pieces. I was still sanding, but let's take the wings off, split the body, landing gear. So let me tell you what's gone on. I went ahead and I cleaned up the edges the last time. I guess I made a video about this, and then I put them together, and I was talking about shaving this little inside piece to make it fit better. And I wound up, I knew it was going to happen eventually, but I broke off the little piece that the guide wire controls goes to, but I'll just glue that on later. So I went ahead and I kept sanding a little bit, and then when I felt that it was close enough, which is kind of where it is now, let me just put this together for a second. I had then put it together with rubber bands, and then I sanded across the seams to get this a little closer. So last time we talked, I was talking about taking a little bit off of here so these would come in a little closer together, and it has. So if you look at there, it's the seam's much better than it was. But what I still need to do is put a little bit of, especially back by the tail section, some putty back in here. But I used rubber bands. Then I came across and I filed this seam line, sanded the seam line between the described lines for the panels. The cowl is still going to take a little bit of work. I'm probably going to have to put some tape under here and then fill this, but the reason why I've just used rubber bands to hold it together is that I want to try and, it's a lot easier when you can split this apart and do some sanding. So I have to still fit the canopy and see how that's going to come together. But after I had sanded and I got to the point where it's going to be ready for filler, well, I can't put filler and not glue it together, right? That wouldn't work. So I had to go ahead and start doing the interior. So these controls are this plate's glued as a separate piece. I went ahead and put that in, and then there's another little piece that gets glued in, and I sprayed it, airbrushed it. Well, first, before I airbrushed it, I used this primer. I went ahead and I sprayed primer just on the inside. I didn't prime the outside because I still have to fit and sand and stuff like that. So I primed the inside. You can see a little bit of the primer on the tail where I had the clamp holding it. When that dried, let that dry for a couple of days, I airbrushed the interior green, and I also, because I hadn't sprayed this, I airbrushed a clear spoon. So this is clear plastic. And I first started, I just sprayed a little bit, and then I went right to the plane, and then I had some more paint left in the cup. So I got a nice interior green spoon. So if I want to see if maybe I can find this in a craft paint, possibly. We'll mix something up, but it came out nice. So this will be a reference color for me. So that's that. Then I came back and with the little brush, I just painted the red little knobs on them. This piece has the oxygen hose and little black. That part gets black. That's olive drab, and is a hydraulic hand pump, and you paint the handle red. So that's all assembled. That's all together. So once I had the two halves meeting reasonably well, I went ahead and I built the cockpit. Here's my pilot. I went ahead and used again craft paint. You know, they said tan, I think, for the jacket. I used let me see what I used. I think I used raw sienna. What did I use here? Yep, I used craft paint, raw sienna. I just painted that with a brush. Have brown for boots, just like they said, and I made my own flesh color with I think it was white and a little bit of the sienna for his hands. The control stick is in there. I don't know if you can see all that, but that's all in there. So this is the interior green brush painted. So, obviously if I airbrush it comes out a little bit better. But he's all glued in. There's multiple pieces here. I don't know if you can see the headrest is a little bit different color. It's the olive drab. But I put them all together because, again, this all has to get put together before I can put any putty in here. And then what I did was I went over the craft paint, being the pilot, and this brown is craft brown, with a matte. And then that was it. The control panel, I started to paint it, and then I said, okay, there's the decal for it. But the little interesting thing about this is this surface isn't completely flat, so it's a little hard to get that decal sheet down. I mean, had I known, I probably would have sanded that. But when you put this in the plane, you really can barely see it anyway. So I mean, it's there if you look for it, but it's a little hard to see. So when I put this guy in, it was kind of what I had mentioned in an earlier video. I had to come back and sand a little bit of the edges here to get back to my fit. So I knew how it should fit without this in, and then when I put this in, I couldn't get it close enough. So I even had to take a little bit off of the front panel here because it was pushing it out. Let me put so I'll glue these pieces in, but this goes, let me get this up here. So these are the pedals for the rudders, they go on his feet. This goes in the middle. And so it's going to go something like that. Get this on. Then also, in preparation for gluing this, I did the rear landing gear wheel. Get a close up of it. Now they said to, the instructions say painted steel and semi-gloss black. Well, what I did was, I didn't have a steel color, so I just went old school with the old Tester's enamel silver. And I can black wash that a little bit to tone it down if at the end it's too much. But I left it like that. So let's put this guy in. Yeah, nothing's glued, but I'll just see if I can get this together for you. You can get a little better look at what things look like. Okay. All right. And what you can see is I've gone through and I've sanded some of these seams to get them to line up to see where I'm going to have to fill. So if you look at this, when it's together and clamped, it's a pretty good seam. There's that one piece I have to putty in. And then once I sand that out and then I prime over it, it should be good to go. But I'm just about at that point where I'm ready to putty. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to rubber band these together, get the canopy, see how the canopy fits.